Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're taking some thrifted pieces that I picked up at the Goodwill bins and we're going to transform them into more elevated, high-end looking decor pieces. The first items I picked up were these two metal colanders. For this first DIY, I'm going to take one of those colanders and string some jute twine through it in 3 different places to balance it out and turn it into a plant hanger. I tied a loop at the top of my hanger with the jute and then wrapped the twine around it to give it a nice finished look. Then I placed a cocoa plant liner that I had picked up at Dollar Tree into the colander, and I placed a potted pothos plant into the liner that my sister had recently propagated and then gifted to me. Then I took a bag of Spanish moss from the Dollar Tree and placed it around the pot to kind of disguise the pot so you couldn't see it as much. The second colander wasn't in as good of shape, so I decided to spray paint this one for the next DIY. I spray painted the bottom of it in a glossy black and then the inside of it with a bronze spray paint. I'm going to make a fire bowl with this one. While I was waiting for the paint to dry, I dug through the snow and gathered up some stones from my backyard to use in this fire bowl. Or you could pick up some aquarium rocks or some small stones from Dollar Tree. I filled the bowl up with these pebbles and then placed a little chafing pot camp heater into the center of my bowl and placed a few big rocks around it to make it look like a mini fire pit. I brought it outside to test it out, and I was having trouble getting the wick to stay lit on my heater, but I think in the warmer months this will work a little better. You could also place a candle in the middle of your bowl and use it indoors as well. Next, I found this beautiful frame. It was just scuffed up a little bit, so I took this brown antiquing wax and just filled in the scuffs and the dings around the sides of the frame. And then for the picture, I really do like this painting. I think it's beautiful, but it's not the colors that I'm really going for right now. So I decided to pop out this picture and cut out a mat with a piece of Bristol board. Then I taped the mat on and then printed off a royalty-free public domain art print and taped that to the back of the mat. Then I popped the painting back onto the frame behind the new image just so I could keep it in place in case I decided to use it again. And for the final touches, I added some rub and buff around the edges of the frame where there was already some gold, but it was kind of scuffed off a bit. The next item I found was this beautiful Christmas tree star. This one was in perfect condition and I didn't need to do anything to it other than clean it up a bit. So I wiped it down and I'll pack it away and save it for decorating next Christmas. Next, I found these two wood bowls that were in pretty rough shape, but I really liked the look of the raw wood that was starting to show through. So I took some paint and varnish stripper. I used the Easy Strip brand, and I painted that on and then covered it in plastic wrap and let it sit for an hour. Then I took a stripping pad and just started wiping it off in a bucket of water. I did this process twice, and there was still quite a bit left behind, so then I took it outside and sanded off the rest of it. The inside of the bowl wouldn't have been very easy to sand, so I decided to paint on some white wax and then rubbed off any excess. And then right after that, before it dried, I painted on a layer of brown antiquing wax and kind of blended the two together. Then I was left with a really beautiful color, and it really masked the imperfections underneath it in the bowl. This wood bowl will make a really nice decorative piece that I can place all different things in it throughout the seasons, greenery, bowl filler. I'm really happy to have this piece. For the second smaller bowl, I stripped the varnish off in the same way that I did with the big bowl, and then sanded down any excess bits. I let that dry and then decided to turn this one into a mini dough bowl candle. First, you can spray your bowl down with some fire retardant just to make sure no accidents happen. Then I placed a wick in the center of my bowl and poured in some hot wax. I used 2 pencils to help keep my wick upright while that dried. After the wax dries, you can take a heat gun to the surface layer of the wax if you want to get out any of those divots and bumps in the wax. But that completed this candle. I think it turned out beautiful. lastly, I got this metal house from the bins at the Goodwill Outlet. It had some lights in it that weren't working anymore, so first I removed those and then wiped it down. I wanted to give this house more of a neutral look, something I could use year-round. So I covered up the star holes at the top of the house with some duct tape underneath and then smoothed out some spackling on top of that. After it dried, I sanded it down just slightly. I wasn't worrying about being too careful with the sanding of this part because I knew I would be spraying on a textured spray, so it won't show up in the end. Then I took this outside and sprayed it with a white spray paint to give it a nice light base, and then took a textured stone spray paint and sprayed that on top after the white paint had dried. And that completed this cute little stone house. So for all 7 items that I flipped today, plus a book I had picked up for my kids, I paid only $9.04 for everything I picked up at the Goodwill Outlet. you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!